Hello everyone, my name is George Slatkovsky and welcome to this new update video for JS Toolbox version 1.2. So let's get started. If you are interested in some particular feature or bug fix, you can just find it in the description. The timecodes will be there, as well as links to the documentation where you can just read this, and yeah, let's get started. So the first and, in my opinion, the most useful feature, especially for new users, are tooltips on each and every button and control on the menu. So if you just hover over some button, you'll see that, well, wire toggle, it's like a very simple function, so it just says that it toggles the wireframe mode for the selected objects. However, if you go to something more complex, like for example selection groups, you'll see there's quite a lot of information here, and if you suddenly forget how to use this thing or this function, or what are the hotkeys, or what are the modifiers and stuff like that, or what's in this right-click menu over here, or if it has the right-click menu, you can just hover over the control and see exactly what it's doing. Of course, this will not completely replace documentation. You still need to go there and check some stuff if you need tips on workflows and stuff like that, but for most of the things, all the information will be right here in the menu. Of course, if you don't need those tooltips and they annoy you, you can go to options over here and just toggle tooltips off. So the next major update in this version is improvements to linear and radial arrays. So there's a lot of focus on the arrays in this update, but the most important thing is this new control window. So for example, if we want to create a linear uniform array, we can select this object over here and just click on any axis you wish, for example X, and this will create a simple array structure over here that you can use, and this object is still editable, so the array is editable as well. But now, in order to change some functionality of this array, you had to go to this menu over here, the channel box, and change and search for those values over here. For example, to change the copies, you had to go here. But right now, we have a new control window over here. So you can just open this window and you can select either the mesh or the control curve that every linear array has. So it is very useful if you, for example, disable the mesh selection and you just have the curve selection over here. You can still select the curve and you can still change all of the controls for the array. So let's just put this array over here, and I will create this deformed array a little bit differently. So just so you know, you can actually use any curve to create linear arrays, not just the default one that it gives you when you click one of those buttons. So if you select any curve and select any mesh over here and click on the any axis, you'll see that now this object is attached to this curve and it's arrayed like that. And also, of course, this object is still editable, so you can do whatever you want with it. And if we click on this mesh over here, you'll see that we have different controls, more controls than the linear uniform array. So let's see. A stretch along curve will just stretch it along the curve. You all know this if you used previous versions. And of course, merge words and uniform distribution. This is all the old stuff. But now you have twist and twist deform. So those are different types of twist for this array. If you just use a regular twist, you'll see that objects will be twisted around the curve, but they will not be deformed individually. But if you go ahead and drag this twist deformed slider, you will see that now the objects will be deformed as well in this twist pattern over here. And those two are new controls. Now, scale Y and scale Z, well, that's very self-explanatory. It will just scale the shape along the curve in Z or Y axis over here. So you can just shape your array a little bit differently. And of course, width we had before. And merge distance and sampling accuracy are the old controls as well, just transferred from this window over here. So let's go to radial uniform and create a uniform array. As you can see, those objects are arrayed in a circular pattern, but they are not deformed. And of course, like before, you can change radius, you can change z offset, and you can change the angle of the array over here like that. So those are old controls that you used before, but they are just now in a better, easy to use package over here. But let's go to the radial deformed arrays. Those have new things as well, and the original object is still editable. You can change it over here. You can even model something new, and it will reflect on the arrayed shape, but that was before, so it's not very interesting. What is interesting are the new controls for the radial array and this window, of course. So we still have radius, we have curvature, just like before, so you can change the curvature of this array. And also you have twist, so you can now twist around the circle over here. This can be very useful for some types of objects. And also you have the same scale Y and scale Z, as you can see over here. So you can change them however you want. And also offset Y and offset Z. As you can see, it will offset the array. And of course, you can, like with any menu like that, you can just hold Control and right click and go beyond the slider, the original slider range, or just type the value, for example, like that. And as you can see, it now changes like that, which can be very useful as well. This control is not as useful as previous ones, but you still can use it. For example, if you change the scale Y and scale Z, just like that, and you can now drag this pattern offset, and it will offset this scale pattern along the circular array shape over here, but you can also just rotate the object if you want. All right, so let's quickly cover the array randomization, and let's go with a deformed array and linear, and I will create it on x-axis, and you'll see that I have this pipe shape over here that actually consists of multiple sections made from this one little guy over here, and we can increase the copies just a bit, just like that. And we have this boring looking pipe that you can connect to some sockets on your model, for example, and control it. But I actually want to randomize it a little bit. And for that, we have multi-array controls and those plus and minus buttons over here. So what those buttons do? Plus and minus will allow you to add or remove objects from the array. Just in one click, you can select array and select this object over here, and you can add it to the array. And now we have two objects on the single curve over here. You can, for example, add some details over here, and they will be reflected on the original model. And of course, you can then move it around as much as you want, just like that. But right now, I want to randomize this pattern a little bit, so I will drag this randomize slider over here. And as you can see, now this pattern will be randomized a little bit. And if I extend the curve and increase the number of copies, as you can see, the pattern will be randomized as well. And you can change this randomization seed as much as you want, as well as you can change the pattern. So it will not be originally before the randomization, like one this object, and so on. It will change the pattern, for example, that we will have more these objects over here, just like that. But now if I want this object to be more prevalent, I need to remove it and add it again. So I'll just remove this object like that, as you can see. Now we have only one object attached. If I drag the pattern, nothing will change, and I will just add it back in, and it will be in the next slot of this array, let's just say. So now this is one, it's the first object, and this one is the second. And now if I increase the pattern, you will see that more and more of the first object appears on this pipe over here, and less of this one. So you can do this, and you can actually increase the randomization, and you will see that now it will give you some interesting variations over here. Now the array randomization over here will randomize the entire array and will randomize the transform, the rotation, or scale. And just create, let's just close this cap really quickly with some mesh. And I will create, for example, linear but uniform array over here. And now if I drag the magnitude a little bit, nothing will change at first because I still have those on 0. And now for example, I need to change the randomness of transform y. And you'll see that now it will be offset from the curve in a random pattern over here. And if I drag the transform z, it will be transformed in the z axis as well. So now the rotation and scale basically the same. So if you increase the scale over here, I'll just take some random values over here and then increase the magnitude, you'll see the scale will increase, but based on those sliders over here. So for example, I don't want X at all. I just need to randomize the Y and Z scale over here. So this can give you some interesting patterns to work with. So the next new feature is related to live plane. And this is a very useful function. I use it all the time. For example, you need to align this object with this mesh somehow, with this polygon over here. You can, of course, just use snap to poly over here, but another very useful alternative is live plane. So you can just enable live plane. It will be placed straight on the polygon over here, aligned to it. And now you can just move this object over here. And as you can see, since it's a live plane, it will be just snapped to this plane. And you can also hold X to snap to the grid. But before, you had very annoying thing with this grid. Only this value over here was available, so you can just change it in fixed increments like that. And it's not exactly what some people wanted. So I've added another field over here for the more fine controls. And you can now just, for example, 5.5 over here, and now as you can see the grid is a little bit smaller over here, and this also will change in a very fine increments over here alongside with this grid over here, so you can have more control over the grid. The next feature with the live plane is actually the align. So before align, just aligned your object to the grid, and it was very useful because you sometimes need to align stuff to mesh like that. And of course, you can enable or disable the live plane over here. But now you can also align to every axis on the mesh. So for example, if I go to object mode, you will see that we have this axis over here. So X, Y, Z and axis. And now if you hold right click on the align, you can align to those axes. For example, I want to align to Y, and you will see that now the object will be aligned to Y axis. Z is what we had before, and X is just reversed. We cannot see it, but it actually flipped the object over here. And of course, the reverse as well. So returning to the arrays real quickly, now all of the array types, the linear array types, uniform and deformed, can be actually attached to multiple curves. And if you go and draw a curve like that, and another one, and you can just go ahead and attach it to multiple curves. Of course, that's a little bit too many copies. So let's just... But as you can see, with one click, you actually attached a single object to multiple curves. Unfortunately, they are not instanced right now, so there will be 3 separate objects that attach to 3 separate curves. So you essentially make a copy and attach it to a new curve. But in the future, this might be added that you can actually attach one single object to multiple curves and have this instanced behavior. But even like that, quickly creating multiple arrays on multiple curves like that is very useful. So a minor change to booleans, if you just enable the boolean over here. And in order to use booleans, before you had to select first object, last object, and you'll see that the last object and all of the objects after the first object, they will be the boolean cutters over here that you can of course change whenever you want. But now we have additional option that lets you reverse this selection order. This might be useful if it's hard to select. It's like I showed, so first and last object, and you need to select it somehow differently. You can just go here and reverse Boolean selection order over here, and now the first selected objects, all of the objects will be the cutters, and only the last object will be the base object. So as you can see, I'll select this, and now the selection order is reversed. So that's very useful. Now another minor change, if you go ahead and open any additional window over here, you'll see that the style is more consistent with the main menu over here. So the buttons and stuff like that are more consistent. Also the instance offset and stuff like that, as you can see, buttons are the same. So it's a minor change, but it's still nice to have all of it like in one style. Now, as you can see, this button over here, it was named before delete node, and it was a bit confusing. I mean, it was exactly what the thing does. It's just deletes a node in the history, but for some users it was confusing, like what is the node it deletes? They don't understand. So now this button was renamed to undo edit, and this is like I think better explanation of what this thing does. For example, if you add some editing to the object, something random, absolutely random like that, and also the vertex editing, of course, works as well, so you can just change it like that. And if you just click on this undo edit, you'll see that it will start undoing the edits one edit at a time by deleting the history node. So this is very useful when you quickly modeling something. The history is still there, and you can just go back a few steps and remodel some stuff without you needing to like undo a bunch of times. Because if you, for example, you have two objects, right? You edited some stuff over here, you edited some stuff over here, and then you went to this object and you started editing over here, but then you return to this object and you need to undo this ugly change over here. And in the undo history, first goes this object, and you will start undo, and it will start undoing these things. So this is very, very annoying, but now you can just go ahead over here and undo edits only on this object, as long as it has the construction history intact, of course. So just undo edit, and this object will be returned back like a few steps. So it was just a quick rename because now it will be more descriptive of what it does. So another minor change and optimization for Booleans is now they are fully compatible with instance mesh. So for example, if we have this mesh over here, but I will create an instance of this mesh, so the edits will propagate between those meshes. Now those meshes are compatible with the Booleans as well. So now if I select this and just create a Boolean over here, let's do it like that in reverse, you'll see that all of the instance copies will be. So now Booleans are compatible with instances, and this is very useful because you can actually edit one instance and all of the other instances will be edited as well. And of course, the Booleans will be affected as well over here. So this is more of an advanced workflow, of course, but still it's nice to have. Boolean delete function was also improved. So now let me just reselect this like that. So now it will actually properly work with instances as well. So if I select only this instance and I delete this cutter, you'll see that this cutter was deleted. This instance is still here without any problems, because before it only worked if those were like different meshes, right? So if those are not instanced, but now it also works on instance objects as well. Another minor change for the materials, I have a MatCap over here, and if I apply it to this object, and you'll see that my textured mode is disabled, the texture mode will be automatically enabled, because before when you applied MatCap and you didn't have this textured mode in your viewport, it will just appear black because MatCap needs textured in your viewport. So it works much better right now. So snap to poly was improved as well. So before it was a little bit inconsistent when you selected polygons and the object, but now it should work perfectly fine. As you can see, I have selected multiple polygons and one object. It added this object to each and every polygon I've selected. And if I, for example, select two objects, let's just change this object a little bit, just so we can see the difference. If I select two objects and then a bunch of polygons, you'll see that it will actually alternate this pattern over here based on the selected objects, of course. So you can snap a bunch of stuff to your model really quickly now. And before it had some issues, now they are fixed. Now, for those of you who use this tool extensively, you might have noticed that in the Hypershade, when you enable this menu for the first time, in the Hypershade you would find a JS blank material. Right, so it's called a blank material, and it was used to actually draw those swatches over here. But now this material was deprecated, and it will no longer appear in your projects. It will no longer be when you save or export some stuff. So it was a little bit annoying. I completely disabled this material. Now those swatches are actually using the default standard surface for newer versions of Maya, or Lambert 1 for older versions of Maya. Now let's go over most notable bug fixes. Let's start with duplicate and extract. So as you can see, I have two meshes over here. They are unconnected meshes, but they are combined in Maya, so they are basically one object. And before, when you use duplicate or extract on such meshes, it had some issues with it. It was not able to duplicate the polygons properly if you had this arrangement. But now, as you can see, we have one mesh over here, duplicate. It will just duplicate those surface polygons, and as you can see, outliner is clean, because if you go ahead and use similar function from Maya, you will get duplicate face. As you can see, now we have one group, and now if I just want to duplicate faces again, like that, we will have another group, and very soon you will see that your outliner is absolutely a mess. But of course, with this function, and a hotkey, of course, is available as well. With this function, you will have a clean outliner without any additional groups. And let's just go duplicate. And as you can see, we now have the same functionality, but we have only two objects as it should be. And it works with the combined objects as well. The same goes for the extract. So if you just want to extract some polygons like that, you will see that, well, by default, it will not even separate them. But if I click Shift and extract, you will see that it will extract the polygons, and the original mesh will be just that one object, nothing more in the outliner. So three objects, as you can see. So another bug fix is related to the quick materials over here, and in particular the global shader. So before, if you had multiple meshes with the material from this slot, and you go over here and click on global shader, now all of the new objects will be that selected shader. So this is very useful if you don't like the default material and you just want to all the new objects to be like a more consistent or your custom material, right, from this quick shader group. But before, if you now unclicked this global shader over here, those original objects that already had this material applied, they will go like a default green color with no textures, basically, the broken material of Maya. But now, if you just disable this global shader over here, they will be switched back to the default material properly. So let's just go again and apply this material over here. Those are default material. We'll go to the global shader over here and then back to the default state. And as you can see, it works much better now. Another fix is the options group hidden in outliner will work properly in newer versions of Maya. So before it was a little bit broken. And if you go ahead and disable the groups hidden in outliner, if you add something to the group, you'll see that it will create a set over here. But now if you just go ahead and hide it, it will properly show and hide those sets. So you will have clean outliner and only those groups involved over here in the menu, as it should be. And this is it for this update for GS Toolbox version 1.2. I hope that especially the tooltips will be very useful for you, but of course other features and bug fixes as well. So I hope that you like this video, and as always, all of the links and time codes and documentation will be in the description, so you can check it out. And yeah, thank you for watching. See you next time.